Election Day is just days away. At stake, 35 seats in the Senate, all 435 seats in the House, and just possibly the future of our democracy. Here's Robert Costa.
Homecoming weekend at Penn State. The grills, the games, families gathered together. It's no wonder thousands make the pilgrimage to the grounds of Beaver Stadium here in central Pennsylvania's Happy Valley. And along with tailgating and Big Ten football, every 2 years there's another autumn tradition.
You want to talk politics for a minute?
Sure.
All right.
Reporters ruining the fun and asking about elections in this crucial battleground state.
So inflation's your number one issue?
Absolutely.
Is crime a major issue in Pennsylvania?
Yes.
But beyond the issues that are dominating the headlines, the economy, crime, and abortion rights, some express another concern.
Our very democracy is at stake in this election, and soon it could be taken from us. And that's what this election, I think, is about, because when these election deniers come into office as secretaries of state and in roles where they control the process, and somebody wins an election that they don't like, they'll overturn it. And will we care then? It'll be too late.
Indeed, more than 300 Republican candidates for state and national office have been identified by CBS News as election deniers for having stated their refusal to accept the results of the 2020 presidential election as legitimate.
January 6th was caused because of a crooked, stolen election.
And with the most prominent election denier in the land, former President Donald Trump, still ruling the Republican Party, it's an open question how his followers will respond when the votes are counted in just 9 days.
Coming down from elites, from the former president, from leaders within the Republican Party, from many candidates, is the perpetuation of this idea that something was stolen, that these elections are not legitimate.
Michael Berkman is a Penn State professor who directs the university's McCourtney Institute for Democracy. They study what it takes to nurture democratic institutions in the U.S. and abroad.
So often in the United States, people often say it can't happen here. The rise of a hardline, nationalistic, anti-democratic government. But could it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that the thing to remember about democratic erosion is that it's most likely to happen from within. We're all watching what's happening in Ukraine and impressed and proud of the Ukrainians, how they're standing up and fighting for their democracy. But democracy doesn't usually die through coups or invasion. It usually dies from within. An authoritarian-oriented leader is elected, and then they start to change the rules. They start to change who the other people in office are. They start to change the referees. And you start to eat away at norms, start to eat away at guardrails. You start to erode people's acceptance and the legitimacy of institutions that are essential to democratic rule. And you can end up in a very unfortunate place.
The framers of the Constitution saw the free press as one of the pillars of representative government. In the words of Thomas Jefferson, wherever the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government. But are today's news organizations prepared to meet today's moment?
The Republican Party is gripped by people who are election deniers. How should the press contend with that? It's happening inside one particular party.
Right. And we need to be very straightforward about saying that and pointing it out. Of course, we're going to hold both parties to the same standards. It's not that we're on one team. We hold both parties to the same standards. But when one party is the one who's doing this very troubling thing, we need to be straightforward about that. And if it causes criticism from the right, that's okay.
Margaret Sullivan is the former public editor of the New York Times and was the media critic at the Washington Post. She has a new book, Newsroom Confidential, in which she says the press has been reluctant to forcefully call out attacks on democracy for fear of being labeled partisan.
How does the press cover it without sounding alarmist at every step?
I don't think we're nearly alarmist enough. I think we need to stop being asleep at the switch and sound the alarm more about what could happen if election denialists are, in power and decide, oh, well, we only like the results of this election, but not that one. I mean, we no longer have a country anymore.
What are the stakes this year?
Well, I think that they're profound. When you look at the overhang from COVID and the various COVID relief measures, they have had a massive effect on our country's fiscal future. We may well be looking at a recession.
Polls show Republicans could make major gains in 2022, but how would they use that power? Reihan Salam is the president of the conservative Manhattan Institute, which focuses on economic policy. He shares the same kitchen table concerns as many Republican-leaning voters, but worries whether either party can deliver timely solutions.
Unfortunately, I don't think that this election is going to be about policy. I think the election is overwhelmingly a reaction to the state of the economy. And if indeed conservatives get elected to Congress in large numbers, that is going to be a very serious challenge for them. And ahead to 2024. Basically, we're in this dynamic right now where our politics are on such a knife edge. Republicans could win, Democrats could win, so it's a total zero-sum dynamic in which the Democrats do not want to give a win to the Republicans and vice versa.
Washington gridlock is an old cliche, but like many cliches, it has basis in fact. Even amid the celebration we saw at Penn State, some were pessimistic that politics can affect any real change.
A long time ago, I actually believed in the system, but not anymore.
Not anymore. What broke your belief in the system? Do you remember that moment?
None of the problems are ever solved. Everybody's saying they're going to fix the economy, they're going to fix everything, health care, and everything's in shambles.
With Election Day just ahead, can a lack of faith in our system become a self-fulfilling prophecy? For those determined to participate in democracy, politicians, journalists, and voters, Margaret Sullivan says there is a duty we all share.
Well, you can't make people care, but you can explain consequences to people. You can talk to people. I think we can ask people to be their best selves as American citizens. And that means being informed and not dismissing the news. I hear so many people say, I'm tuned out. I don't want it anymore. It's all negative. I don't care.
What do you say to them?
I say, if you want to live in this country and be a good citizen, and I think people do, that there is a deep sense of patriotism, then it's important to be an engaged citizen and to know what's going on.